Hey everybody, Tony D with a hot take on Canada. I've been to Canada a few times. It's nice. Um, Went up there. I guess this was probably early 2010s and maybe before. And saw Montreal. It was kind of a weird place for me because it was interesting to see a place that basically spoke English, but also had signs in different languages, so it was a bit like driving around an alien landscape where I didn't understand any of the signs, um, or some of the signs, I should say. Most of the signs were in English, so I could get around. But ever since Canada elected Trudeau, it's been very strange. Uh, and I talk about this all the time about the last two episodes of Family Guy I watched with the Trump episode, and it really turned me off for a lot of different reasons because it just got so political. Same thing with The Simpsons; it got so political. And for those of you who don't know, spoiler alert: the end of the two-part Trump episode is Peter fights Trump like Trump's the chicken, right? Which, funny. But the end of it is they both fall off the Washington Monument and they are saved with an airbag by Justin Trudeau on a Segway, flying Segway. Which, at the time, to the people who put together the episode, I'm sure that sounded very sensible, right? Oh, Trump's this unreasonable nutbag that we got as a president. But Justin Trudeau, he's so together. So together. And granted, they did this like way ahead of time. And then, of course, it comes out Trudeau, he was caught wearing blackface multiple times. So many times he doesn't even remember how many times he's done it. And he was caught up in a major scandal that's still sort of roiling his administration. I mean, that's pretty bad. That is really bad. Because it's like he didn't even adhere to the woke narrative. It's bad enough people caught in the wokeness eventually sort of eat their own because you can never be woke enough. You can never be good enough for these people. But that he so blatantly violated the wokeness and is still in power is just amazing to me. And people still support him. And it shows you the sort of blind partisanship that really exists in a lot of places. They just, it's like the Democrats supporting Biden here. No matter what Biden does, no matter how badly he seems to fall apart in speech after interview, after a virtual town hall, doesn't matter. I mean, there are articles out talking about his Me Too accuser saying why you shouldn't believe her and you should still vote for Biden anyway. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad to see that people blindly voted because the reverse used to be true. This used to be true of Republicans, and people on the right, conservatives. They would blindly vote because, well, I got to vote for, yeah, he's had his problems, but he's a religious man. He's a godly man. I have to vote for him. Now it's like, well, he's a woke man. He's still a good man. I know in my heart he's good. It's faith. That's what it is. It's another form of religion. And the big story coming out of Canada right now, somebody just texted me, is this what they're calling incel terrorism. Now, for those of you who don't know what an incel is short for incelibate, and it's these guys online who sort of banded together and they basically can't get laid, so they've decided they won't get laid by choice, and there's like a lot of, I wouldn't say women hating, but there's kind of a resentment towards women. I would say that they can't have them, that women are too much for them to handle, blah blah blah. It's a sad state of affairs. For a lot of them, they're frustrated young men, and I can relate to it. Look, I can relate to it. I certainly had my problems with women, and I think that their mindset in general is a bit unhealthy, but I don't think it's violent. So to say incel terrorism is to imply this whole thing of like, well, there are these groups of incels and they sit around thinking about how they're going to kill us all. That's not really true. In any group of people, you're going to have a bunch of maniacs who take it too far, and some of them are just, quite frankly, mentally ill. And being an incel is the sort of thing that would attract, unfortunately, some mentally ill people, because it's kind of a bit of an extreme, sort of vague philosophy that you can easily take too far. But for most guys, they're just blowing smoke. They're just saying, well, I can't get laid, so screw it, I don't want women then. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you're not hurting anybody, I don't care what you do. I would suggest, though, to the incels out there, any incels listening, you give something, I think it's a little more healthy to look at like MGTOW, which is men going their own way, which has got more of I think, a positive aspect to it. Even though, even that sort of philosophy's got a bit of a strange take on women. I don't think it's hostile towards women. It's more of a like get a better understanding of yourself and the nature of women, and try to live a positive life of self-improvement, and eventually you'll be able to have women, and you may not ever have a long-term relationship, but you could certainly interact with women and then just go your own way. It seems to be an appealing philosophy, and one that's relatively positive. Now, I'm not super up on it. I've done, or one of the MGTOW guys did a piece on Wokistan, which was nice because I figured it would appeal to that crowd, and we got some sales on it, and they were pretty cool. And really, I talked to some of those guys, and they seem fairly normal guys, no problem. So, when something like this happens, the authorities are always desperate to explain it. When some crazy guy does some crazy things, the authorities immediately want to come out and they want to do two things. They want to explain it, and they want to take the opportunity, because they always use a crisis, to smear a group of people that they don't like. So it was easy for them to smear incels. They're not a strong group of people. Like, you wouldn't come out and say, well, this is obviously the work of J.P. Morgan and Associates. Like, they wouldn't say that, not just because like they have nothing to do with it, but because J.P. Morgan and Associates are powerful people, right? They've got tons of money and lawyers, and they'll come down on you like a bag of hammers. But the incels aren't going to do that. They're a disparate group that nobody knows about, and it's also like an old person thing too, right? Some older person, usually my age or above, will come across some scary term like incel. Ooh, that sounds. Ooh, incel. What's that? Ooh, incel. Ooh, they sound awful. And then, of course, the person that explains it to them is only a little younger, and they're scared too. So you get this situation where, like, oh, something happened. That sounds like an incel. Let's call it incel terrorism. And the next thing you know, everybody's up in arms. I remember when this happened back in '89, the Public Enemy. Oh, this hip hop. Oh, hip hop. What is that? Oh, well, it's this rap, and they say things, and not everything is appropriate. Oh my God. Well, let's have a big article in Newsweek and analyze the lyrics. Yes, let's do that. That'll tell us something. And really, it was just about selling magazines and getting everybody all hyped up about a music genre that a group of people liked. Was it a little edgy? Yeah, but it was just music. So I think the reaction to this tragedy in Canada sounds to me very overblown. If you really want to deal with incels, that's one thing, but you have to deal with the fact that Canada is kind of a mess. It's kind of a woke mess. They're basing policy based on wokeness, which is based on feelings. And that's not a good thing. That is not a good thing. And Trudeau is, in my view, a terrible, terrible leader. I mean, he's just awful. He really should not be in power. Canada, you got to get your act together and get rid of Trudeau. I'm not saying you should vote for any particular party, but clearly Trudeau has again and again and again, stepped in it. I mean, what good has he done other than virtue signal to the whole world and try to show how much better he is than everybody else? I don't think that really is leadership. I think leadership is when you tell people what they don't want to hear and you still gain respect for it. I think Trump has done that to a large degree. You know, he says things that get people very upset, but at the end of the day, sometimes you have to acknowledge he was right. I mean, you look at him on China, the China situation. A lot of people are coming around to his point of view on that because, well, the Chinese kind of screwed us over. And, you know, there was too much. It went too far with regard to China. It was one thing to take a few businesses over there. It was another thing to take 95% of your medical stuff to China, a communist country who now is sort of flexing its muscles a little bit and saying, hey, you in the NBA, shut up. You people who play wizard games, shut up. So, you know, sorry to hear about your recent tragedy, Canada. Unfortunately, I think, you know, you really need to rethink your leadership. I think that would help. I think you need a more normal politician, not a guy who's going to virtue signal or exploit this sort of terminology to crack down on internet and or censor you further. That's not the answer. That's never the answer. The answer is to, you know, when it comes to violence and crazy people, the answer is simple. It's mental health. You know, where are the mental health people in Canada? Maybe they have a mental health crisis there like we do in the States. You know, we got a lot of people who are, and they need some help. How about some tax incentives for those people so they can get the help they need? You know, you guys got a million other government programs in Canada. How about those? Of course, you know, doing that through government is always a problem because there's such a weight. So maybe you need to privatize that system and make it super profitable so everybody can benefit and have the competition drive down the price so everybody can pay for it. Just something to consider, Canada. Oh, Canada.